Today's blue light hotspot is going to be covering the Yukon Territory in the country of Canada. So my name is Nancy Rebecca. If you're new to my channel, I am a registered nurse. I am a clairvoyant psychic, been doing this work for 30 years. And I like to talk about frequencies and everything that impacts us from the inside out and the outside in. So today we're going to talk about the frequencies of the Yukon Territory, which is north of British Columbia and near Alaska. So I invite you to go ahead and take a look at a map if you would like to really get some more information about its exact location. So when I went to tune into the blue light beings and tune in and to find out exactly where there is activity that is happening in the world, where the blue light might be coming through. And as I was tuning in, there were a couple of places that came through, but it was almost like the pulse of the blue was a little bit quieter. So I certainly could have done a hotspot review of that area. But then it was quite interesting. It was like I saw the maple leaf, the red Canadian maple leaves just on my desk. Like all of a sudden it just kind of popped out and I went, wait a minute, that's Canada. How come I've never done anything on Canada? And so it got me really curious. So I went into meditation because I have a lot of friends from Canada and I've been to Canada a lot. So it really surprised me that Canada didn't come up. So I'm going to read from you my notes about what I picked up. The first thing was Canada does not want to be seen. And I was like, what? Why? And so I went through kind of the tapping in, but when something doesn't want to be seen, it's like there's this veil so that, I have to kind of do this little negotiating as a psychic with the spirits that are there. But I'm really good at honoring and respecting any boundaries that come up. But again, I was very surprised that there was this veil over the whole country. So then I thought, well, I think there's 9 provinces. So is it just one province that doesn't want to be seen, or is it all provinces that don't want to be seen? And so I kind of just tuned into each province. And again, it felt quite veiled until I got to the Yukon. And in the Yukon, it felt very expansive and very open. All right. So I do have students in Whitehorse. I have friends in Whitehorse, and I've always kind of felt kind of drawn to Whitehorse. So then I thought, all right, is my psychic ability just wanting to tune into the Yukon? So I whipped out my little, I don't always pull out a pendulum, but I whipped out a pendulum and I thought, I'm going to get some verification on this. So I went through all the provinces and it was like, there was some clear no's. I think the biggest veil is in Alberta, and I'll talk a little bit about this, but each one was lightly veiled, setting good boundaries, as they should, but the Yukon was wide open. So I just wanted to give you that little tidbit. Now, for all the Canadians that tune in, just want to let you know, you've got some really awesome stuff going on there, but it is quite veiled. And as it unveils itself, I promise you, I will be talking about that. But my sense is the next place I might be going is the area of Newfoundland. So, but I'm not quite sure when that's going to happen. All right, so let me hop back to the Yukon. Today I'm going to focus on the Yukon as this area has the strongest blue light frequency coming through, and it is a pure frequency like sound that is emanating from the entire area. So this whole Yukon area is really radiating, but there's this kind of concentrated focus of blue light that's very palpable, very strong. Now, this is the thing that I found so interesting, was it wasn't like I had a visual, because I'm very clairvoyant and that I usually rely on that, but it was more clairaudient. So for any of you who tend to be more clairaudient, I would love to have you tune in, because I want you to hear what this sounds like. So it was definitely, it sounded like it was a universal sound. It didn't sound like it was coming from the earth. It didn't sound like it was coming underneath the earth in the Yukon. It felt like it was coming from above. It was like different tones that I could hear. It was also like a radio trying to tune into its frequencies, as well as like satellite, sonar or something. I don't know, but it wasn't frightening. It was comforting. It was almost like those tones, those sounds were very comforting. And I'm kind of thinking now, as I'm talking about this, I know that when I've when I was in England and I was in Glastonbury, and I was talking to someone there in Glastonbury about the different circles that are there, that the different patterns that are made in the field, the crop circles. Oh my God. And it describes, sometimes they'll see lights, but sometimes they will hear tones, like these different tones, vibrations, and frequencies. So that's what I'm imagining the crop circles that they've talked about, those tones would sound like. And then this area in the Yukon, I can even hear them now as I'm talking to you, these different tones. And I have to say, they're kind of comforting. The other thing that I felt was that my own crown chakra, my seventh chakra, became highly active. So as you're watching this, notice if your own crown chakra becomes highly active. But it wasn't highly active like right here. It was like way up there in much higher dimensions. And again, I'm hearing that sound at a very, very high dimension. So let's say it's around dimension 35. So if we think our body's in the 3D world, our heart's in the 4D world, dimensional world, our spirit's in the 5th dimensional world. So can you imagine what like the 35th dimension would be like? So that's kind of what I'm hearing, this frequency. It's very pure. And I'm also being told that it's like also a nature of sound. Ooh. Sound of nature, that nature emanates these sounds as well. And have you ever listened to somebody who actually records nature? There's tones like that are coming through. So in this, the crown chakra is highly active, highly spiritual. There's something really special going on there in the Yukon Territory. When I ask why the Yukon province is so spiritually active right now, I am told it has always been highly spiritually active. This is nothing new. So then I asked about tuning into the other provinces right now, and that's what I picked up. There's a high sense of privacy. I am told that the ancestral spirits of the land in the Yukon are highly active, and that people who come to the Yukon Territory are there because they are called to be there. So then I said, well, in Canada, they're kind of private, and maybe they're private about the communities that come in, and maybe they're, I don't know. Maybe they're just not going to fling open their doors and say, welcome in. So there's a lot there that's going on. However, in the Yukon, they were like, no, we don't worry about that, because the frequency here is so high that you're either going to make it or you're not. You can move there, and if you can't kind of sustain yourself within the frequencies that are going on there, you will find yourself moving out. You will be there for a temporary amount of time, or maybe just a few years. And they say that people will be drawn there spiritually. They come there to do their spiritual work. maybe connect in with higher dimensions, and then they move out. And they say that those who live there longer term, it's because they're called there and they are really aligned with the frequencies. So I found that quite interesting as well. I know when I went to Hawaii, they say similar things, that in Hawaii, if you cannot find a deep comfort within the higher frequencies of the Hawaiian Islands, you will find yourself moving off the island. All right. So as I sit with the frequency, it's very light. And this is how I described it. It's like butterfly wings, very soft, fluttery, light, bright, as if I can lift off spiritually. And that's what the Yukon area, it feels like. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, as if that's not interesting enough. I am told that there is an enormous portal there above the Whitehorse area. So when I asked, I'm like, all right, so is it above the town of Whitehorse, or the city of Whitehorse? Is the portal above? And then the answer that came back from the blue beings of light said, no, it's north. So it's not in Whitehorse, but you would go about an hour north, I think. So they were saying that it's heading north above. If you were to look at a map, it would be above Whitehorse on the map. And so after I got that clarity, this is what I heard. This is where the galactic starships come through and into our solar system. Galactic starships. And then I am told that it's very similar, like a sense of, do you remember in Star Trek, they had that machine, looks like these columns of light, that's called the transporter? And the transporter will teleport someone from one place to another, or an item from one place to another. And it's like they dematerialize, and you could become like pure photonic light. And then you go to another planet and you rematerialize there. And remember in some of the shows when the teleporter gets damaged and you can't bring the people back, and it was super exciting. But what Spirit was saying, that this enormous portal is very similar, that you can have other beings from another planet, that their spaceship, starship is what I'm going to call it, can kind of dematerialize and rematerialize on the other side of this portal. They also said that there are underground portals underground in the Yukon Territory as well. So I've already told you I can hear a radio satellite type frequency. I can hear little squiggly frequencies that are very unusual. I also said I can hear voices like, it sounds just like that, but I don't understand it. It's like it's of a different language. And I'm not sure I can even get to the depth of what is being talked about here. So this came up in another blue light hotspot where I was allowed to go only so far. And then it said there are other people in the world who are used to working in these other ranges, and that they can provide some information. So I will ask for those of you who are able to work within those ranges to offer some insight and wisdom and knowledge in the comment section. I would love to read it. So I said, I'm not sure I can even get to the depth of what's being talked about here, because it seems, I said, way above my pay grade, frequency grade, and that my mind won't let me go beyond this scope of what I'm being shown in the Yukon. So I said I can hear the language, but I don't feel threatened. This energy is very, very beautiful. I don't feel threatened. I don't even feel frightened. And it almost feels like if I went to visit there in Whitehorse and went up north to see if I could find the area, it doesn't feel threatening. And I think that I would feel very comfortable there. That's the sense I get. But I do feel cautiously curious. And the reason why is because in the higher dimensions, there is no time or space. So what does that mean? Well, it means there's no time. They don't work in time frames, not like we do here in the 3D world. So it's like something could have happened 2,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago, or let's say 100 million years ago. In the spirit world, it's just like everything is at the same time and space, no matter when it happened, how we calculate it on Earth. But then here's the other piece about that. There's no space. So what does that mean? So I'm sitting here in Tacoma, Washington, in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. I'm talking about the Yukon. It's being shared with me about this enormous portal. And in those higher dimensions, it's as if I am right there. So I have put up some boundaries because it's like I don't want to totally engage with whatever is happening there, because I just want to share with you this video, and I have no intentions to kind of do a deep dive, at least not at this time, as to what exactly is going on. But I will tell you that the area is highly willing and ready to share this information with others. So I will say that. So then I felt like this portal was so large, and so I asked the blue light beings, I said, is this portal the largest portal in the world from the galactic ships that come in? And the information I got was, no, it's not the number one largest, but it is the 6th largest in the world. So for those of you living in the Yukon Territory, you've got an amazingly large portal there to bring through larger galactic ships. Okay. So now after I got all that information, I thought, well, let me see. So I go into Google and I type in 2 things, Yukon Territory and UFOs. That's all I did to see if there was any UFOs. And bam, I got a hit. I got that big fish on the hook immediately. So north of Whitehorse at Fox Lake. So did I write about the other lake that's there? Fox Lake area. I wrote Yukon River and Fox Lake area. Okay, so this is this area, and it is traveling north from Whitehorse is where this area is. So in this area, they've had the most documented sighting of an enormous size. They're calling it the mothership, that it had to be a mothership that other ships could come out of. That happened here in this area in 1996. So any of you can do your own Google research. You can even go to YouTube, because I went to YouTube next, and I was able to kind of hear some of the stories from some of the people. But it traveled through several towns, several areas. So there were 31 people that were not in one place, but they all called in to report it. They all drew pictures. The pictures were the same. And it came from this area, and it was the size of 4 football fields. 4 football fields. And they said the reason why so many people got to see it was because it isn't like it just zipped through the sky at 2,000 miles an hour. It was just slow moving ship that went above Fox Lake, and then it continued to travel north. All right, so I was really curious about this. So even though that's the one time it's been witnessed, there's been many UFOs that have been witnessed there. There is a lot of activity in the forest, in nature in that area, where I can really feel different types of mystical, magical beings. My sense is that they come through this portal and they come to Earth. There's also a lot of star beings that come through. I am being told that in the Yukon Territory, which is not the only province that has a lot of star people that are Canadians, but they are star people living in Canada. But there's a large concentration in the Yukon, so I found that very interesting as well. There's a lot of high-level knowledge that's coming through in the Yukon area, so people may want to live out in the middle of nowhere, but what Spirit is telling me is they are bringing through a high level of knowledge, and that they can even at times kind of communicate with the beings that are coming through or the ships that are coming through. So I think this is one of the first times in the Blue Light Hotspot where it's been very heavily weighted towards this galactic kind of federation portal where big ships are coming down to the Earth, communicating with the Earth, and then traveling back out through that way. So that would be quite interesting to visit there, wouldn't it? It'd be quite exciting. So that is about it in regards to this really exciting information about the Yukon, or again around Fox Lake and around, I think it's the Yukon River. And so see if you can get some more information about it. I really encourage you as the intuitive archaeologist to meditate with it. I'm really curious if you can hear the sounds that I can hear. I think they're super cool. And this is where they come from all over the world. The different galactic ships that come from all over the world can go up to the Yukon and transport themselves through that portal. So highly active. I'm also shown that it goes through Fox Lake, that they can go down through Fox Lake through an underground system as well. So bear with me, everyone. This is all kind of new information for me, but I know that I'm not meant to know everything because we are a unified consciousness, right? And so for any of you that have any insider information in regards to that, would love to read about it in the comments section. All right. Take care, everyone. And for everyone up in the Yukon and Whitehorse, I am saying hello. And if you have any insights, I would love to hear your comments as well. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.